That intro, right? It's giving you vibes. Salute. Second salute. And for you guys, why not? You've earned it. You haven't had it in a while. Double salute. A double salute. I mean, that's kind of the comic tropes after dark guarantee. Welcome to the show, folks. Unfortunately, there's no one else here. I gotta be your host. I'm Chris. This show is the weekly Spinner Rack, where we are going to talk about the latest comic book news, and there is some positive, fun news tonight, which I feel like we haven't had in a while. Thank goodness. That'll be awesome to riff on with the audience and yourselves watching later. There are some interesting comics that came out this week to talk about for both good and ill. And if there's time, I've been pecking away at like a drawing of Godzilla here that I think I'd like to ink. This is just some light pencils. So that could be fun. We shall see. So one thing I like to do for all the folks that show up early is give some quick shout outs. Thank you to all of you. Lovely to see a mix of new faces and familiar ones. That's awesome. I'm just rattling down, trying to give you guys a little shout out. I appreciate you being here. It's part of what makes the show fun. Usually, just to be clear, folks, I'd love to be a clever host, a host that makes interesting insights and shares witty banter. A lot of times, it's my audience. So look at me. I'm the host now. I don't know about that, West Coast Davengers, if that even is your name. I saw a cat wearing those glasses. I can't believe you cribbed his style. A cat? You mean like that cool cat around the corner? Watching from South Korea, says Zach Couch. That's awesome. I do have new glasses. Folks, I've needed new glasses for a while. My prescription was so out of date. Like, it's for distance. And, you know, if I'm on a familiar drive during the day, I didn't notice. Driving at night or going down, like, you know, new pathways and looking at the signs, I'd be like, huh? So I had to get myself some new glasses. I went ahead and treated myself to some fairly bold frames here because I now have progressives. I had to get like it's so that I can see things like really up close, like you know, basically bifocals, we'll call them. And so they call those progressive lenses. Like, depending on the angle I see things like either sort of in focus or blurry, basically. I was like, well, I'm going to get bigger lenses than I used to have if I'm going with progressives. So let me just, if I've got like big old glasses, I'm just going to go with something fairly bold. And I treated myself. I got myself a pair of Gucci's. The official sponsor of Comic Tropes After Dark. No, never. That would never happen. But I went ahead and got myself some glasses. I like them. And I've also been just sort of growing my hair out a little longer just to see if I like it. I don't know. I'm just trying new things. I don't like being stagnant. You know, even though my show on the other channel, Comic Tropes, has always been about analyzing comics. You could see that there are sort of different eras almost where, you know, like when I started, every time I see like a trope, I drink. There was the, oh, hi, you caught me, blah, blah, blah. You know, like there are eras. And I go through like little changes just to sort of keep it interesting. I can't just keep doing the exact same thing forever. But anyway, that was a lot of talk about me. I will plug one more thing. On this channel, I'm really, really happy with how editor Jamie made myself and Jim and Daniel Warren Johnson look in our episode looking at the movie Robot Jocks. So on this channel, I would love it if you gave that a shot. You know, that's just three guys riffing on a movie from 1990, but we all kind of like it, even though it's a low budget movie. It's definitely the kind of thing that Jim and I had in mind for Trash Movie Bonanza, to highlight something that we like that others would call trash, but that we like. Thank you. Thank you so much. Daniel was really insightful. It was so nice that he had both opinions, and it was really cool. At one point I mentioned a designer from the movie, and Daniel happened to have the book, so that was fun to talk about. You got it. Somebody watched. Thank you very much, Dave. Tell you what, let's get into the news to start the show. Let me bring this up. And oh, wow, I'm just so fascinated with all the news that's going on. Can you believe this stuff? Wow. That actually looks good. Look at, like, yeah. Oh, I'm impressed with the thumbnail, but thumbnail me is impressed with the Godzilla. All right, enough riffing. How will tariffs impact comics? We've got some more news. Not nearly as much as we feared. There's some good news here. I think I'm starting with a bit of good news. So, just to break it down for people that either aren't keeping up with the news, and God bless you, that must keep you so much more sane than me, or maybe people that are watching from another country that, like, don't need to keep up with where the U.S. is. Bless you if that's your, like, that sounds amazing. We've got this bizarre trade war that our president is engaging in, and with China specifically, we've got tariffs at 145%. We have to pay taxes 145% of things that come in. So there's like electronics, car parts, all sorts of like everyday things that we need that like China produces more cheaply than we can. And we're just getting gouged over here. And we've been worried, well, what would this do for comics, of course? You know, so certain things have gotten exemptions from this ridiculous tariff. One of the things that got carved out was most print materials, specifically, you know, like books, children's books, manuals, and comic books. And a really good chunk of comic books in America are at like small press and indie stuff. We'll sometimes do that here. There's a really big chunk of that that's done here in the States. A lot of the rest is either Canada or China. China does a lot for us. Hey, look at this. Wow. Thank you very much for the support. Oh my God, that means a lot to me. Hi, joining late. Love the new glasses. Thank you. Cyberpunky. Yes. Yeah, when you look at this, I think you think instantly of, like, you know, two things. You think of Keanu Reeves in the video game Cyberpunk, whatever the future date is, or you think of classic young Harrison Ford in Blade Runner. That's what you think when you see me in these glasses. Those cool guys. Anyway. So anyway, yeah, that was just kind of nice that like comic books have been exempt. So again, for China specifically. What else have we got? Canada, though, is still being threatened. I put it in quotes. I mean, because it's like it's not really a threat to Canada. It's like we, the Americans, are the ones that basically would be paying for this. But there's still a 25% tariff that we're supposedly going to enact on Canada, which does print maybe half of our comics for, like, I'm talking all types of comics everywhere. The thing is that has been paused for 90 days, so we'll see if it actually comes to pass that happens. That would be brutal, and you would see, like, you know, Image, Marvel, DC, the prices would go up on all of those if this goes through. But we've got basically a few months to see for sure. However, just being realistic here, comic related merch, you know, t-shirts, action figures, that kind of stuff. Yeah, that still has skyrocketing prices. There was like a notice through the president of Big Bad Toy Store, for instance, like explaining, hey, what exactly is a tariff? Why are our prices going to go up? And because it's fluctuating so much, they're basically saying, like, look, we're going to show you like the pre-tariff price of a figure, but like, you know, like the latest Spider-Man or whatever. But there's going to be like, hey, just know that like the final price when, you know, that the figure is ready to ship, it's going to have a tariff like price on top of that. So just heads up, heads up. I've decided to open up the country's biggest printing warehouse. Although I don't have the money, nor the equipment, nor the warehouse. Hey, I would add probably not the experience, the technical know-how, or even the emotional fortitude. I don't think you have any of those things. I'm just giving you a hard time, Dave. I'm just giving you a hard time, buddy. Let's see. The Canadian printer Marquee has been keeping customers in the loop on the tariff situation and how it may impact who prints with them. Yeah. And I forget off the top of my head the name. There's one printer in particular in Canada that prints the most comic books. And they did say that, like, you know, when the tariffs get implemented, they're going to like try to absorb those, eat those costs on their end for like 1 to 2 months. Sugar-free Baja Mountain Dew coming your way soon. Here's some sugar-free Mountain Dew, courtesy of Steve. No sugar, but lots of caffeine. It might have been Quebecor that I'm thinking of. It might have been. It's just eluding me right now. Oh, you know what? Tell you what. Let me just shout something out real quick since EJ Sue is here. Today is the last day, final order cutoff for your comic book store to order copies of the new Image comic Blood and Thunder. And EJ is the artist on that. Image was kind enough to provide me with like early PDFs. And I'm biased, I guess, because I love EJ. I love Benito Cereno, the writer. I really love and respect Kirkman, who came up with the idea and is shepherding it as well. An amazing team on it. But, you know, I could just say, like, it looks pretty or something. Or, yeah, it's a good adventure. I'll tell you something, folks. Blood and Thunder. If it's not too late today, ask your on the West Coast or Hawaii, maybe some other places, you might still be able to ask your comic store if you've got them like on, you know, text or email or something. Ask them to order you a copy. Blood and Thunder. If not, just pick it up when it comes out, because it's a sci-fi adventure with aliens and a bounty hunter. What's cool about it is, of course, the art is like crisp and exciting and dynamic. EJ's a really good artist, but it also has like really incredible alien designs, really creative stuff. The sci-fi concepts in it are like challenging and cool for like the world building. Like it builds a really different, cool world. And it's funny. It's legit really, really funny, even though it's also kind of like action-packed and even scary with the villains. I really, really, really liked it. Blood and Thunder. So if it's not too late today, ask your store to order a copy, because today's the day they need to get those orders in. Okay? So, looks pretty is enough for me. It really does. I've never seen you phone something in, EJ. That is the truth. All right, I'll jump back to the news, but I wanted to give that a shout out. Oh, you know what? There's like a little bit of a connection here. The next thing I'm talking about is Transformers comic, and EJ has famously illustrated a bunch of those for when they were in their IDW era. Now we're talking Transformers is with Skybound, and they set this huge record already, and they're probably going to set another one. So Skybound has up now a Kickstarter where you can order a compendium set of the Marvel comics and the Marvel UK comics for Transformers. It hit its, in my opinion, very modest funding goal of $40,000 very quickly. Within 2 minutes of launch, the Transformers Kickstarter hit its goal. Wow. And obviously it's doing very well. So it's currently over $2.5 million, less than a week, folks. 22 days to go. And, it's up to you how much you love Transformers. If you've read this era before, the Marvel era, or, if you love it, it's a pretty good value to get all of this all at once. But their G.I. Joe compendiums that was the Marvel era. They'd previously set the record for most funded comic. They raised almost $3.8 million. But this one's already at $2.5 million with just a few days. So it's on track to pass that and set a record as like the most funded comic book on Kickstarter. Now, I will say this. These compendiums are pretty expensive and pricey. So it's not the most people that have supported a comic book Kickstarter. I'll put that like little wrinkle in. But it is really cool, like, to me, what they've done. Hey, look at this. Sorry, Steve. You're mailing me a Baja Blast diet. Oh, dude, thank you. Wow. I'm 50-50 on this one. But yeah, check P.O. Box Baja. What are they going to do with the Spider-Man issue? Great question. They got permission. They're printing it. So I want to say issue 3 of the Marvel Transformers run, because they thought they were just going to do like 4-issue miniseries. Issue 3 takes place in the Marvel universe. And they will print it. They got the rights to print it. So that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool in my opinion. Carpal tunnel fuel. Oh my goodness. Carpal tunnel fuel is going to be when I later tonight ink my Godzilla. Because, by the way, Stepan will show back up in the news if you guys are patient. Actually, he's in the news tonight. Yeah, they are thick books. I believe it's 4 compendiums you can get. Because it was like about, I don't think it quite got to 150 issues, the Marvel run, but there were a lot of Marvel UK Transformers comics too. Gogeta. They did, yeah. They got permission to include that issue. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. It's very completionist. And they've got different things where, you could order just a digital copy, or you could get just one of the compendiums, or you can get all 4. And, these boxes that they come in, that's got new Daniel Warren Johnson art. So that's fun. But these are the original Marvel runs that are getting printed. Moving forward. There are some Steve Ditko comics out there that are being offered now through their family. Out now. I was just talking about a Kickstarter. I've got like 3 crowdfunded comics to talk about, 3 more, including this one. So yeah, Steve Ditko. Ditko, if anything, is sincerely underrated. He's amazing. He's amazing. It's not for everybody's tastes. I do understand that, but boy, was he a creative powerhouse. He really was. So Steve Ditko's nephew, Mark Ditko, has launched a campaign, and it's offering several of Steve's, I call them indie. They were like, sort of a small press type thing in his later years. He made comics his whole life. He never stopped. He just didn't always want to work for Marvel or DC. Sometimes he would take work from them, even in his later years. Squirrel Girl was like, Speedball. Those were like creations that he gave to Marvel, like in his later years, but still. It's called Steve Ditko's Amazing Heroes and Monsters. It's on Indiegogo. So printed in color for the first time. Most of this, because it was, small press, it was only printed in black and white. This will be the first time you get to see it in color. Probably the first time for a lot of people that they could easily get these comics. It includes 3 complete Mr. A comic stories. And I find Mr. A utterly fascinating. I can't call it like fun and enjoyable because oh my God, it's not just dipped in Ayn Rand's objectivist philosophy. That's all it is. It's literally formed out of that. Um, I did, yeah. Squirrel Girl was a Steve Ditko creation. Mm-hmm. So Mr. A is just a guy who only sees things in black and white, and he lets criminals die, and everybody is always obviously right or wrong. Like there's no gray. It's kind of funny. Anyway, there's also Static. That was a superhero that Ditko created in the 80s. Not Static like Static Shock. There was his own creation with electric powers and stuff. There are some monster comics you can get featuring like giant kaiju type monsters. He did a lot of that in the 50s, but you can get like Gorgo and Konga stories. And I would say after Mr. A, probably the most interesting to a lot of people is basically his thesis on objectivism, but his personal philosophies. He made it as a comic called Avenging World. So yeah. William Patrick Murray, was that the writer that worked with Ditko? Hold on, because I met the girl that Squirrel Girl was based on. Not met her. I know her. Not as like a friend, but like she works at a comic book store in Quincy, Massachusetts. Let's see. Let me just double check on something. Yeah. Right. Will Murray was the artist. Yeah, and he based it off of Doreen at New England Comics. She still works there in Quincy. But Steve Ditko was the designer, the artist. That villain character on the cover is so interesting. Yeah, he did. He had a great design idea. What do you think was his favorite Ayn Rand book? Fountainhead or Atlas Shrugged? Probably Fountainhead, but who knows? Who knows? So, yeah. Let's see. It's funny because Mr. A would have been deep if it were a critique of objectivism and not a pathetic bootlicking of it. Yeah. If you were like looking at DC's or Charlton's comics of the question, or even Rorschach in Watchmen, imagine dialing them up about 200%, and then you get Mr. A. But you know what? Like, whatever. Like he had these ideas and he wanted to make them as comics. I still think that his art, there's a lot that you can learn from it in a design sense, in a storytelling sense. And it was, people that knew him say that, like, I say like too much. He was very social with the people that he knew. He was always very hardworking. Like if you hired him for something, you could count on it being delivered. You know what I mean? And he gave us so many indelible characters like Spider-Man and Doctor Strange, Blue Beetle, I don't know, the Creeper, Hawk and Dove, like just so many great characters. Anyway, I thought some of you would want to potentially check that out. So there is the link. You can get a bunch of these comics. If you're into comics history and stuff like that, I recommend checking them out. I've read the black and white stuff. I could very well end up getting these colored versions just to have sort of a newer copy that I'm not worried about damaging because it's newer. Speaking of crowdfunded campaigns, Alien Books is going to publish Zorro, and it's actually a pretty cool version of Zorro. So, Alien Books also is currently the people that publish the Valiant comics. They've got a partnership with IDW for distribution. But what they announced this week was that they signed a deal with Zorro Productions Incorporated to print Zorro comics. And the first project is going to be a Kickstarter campaign. Right now, it's just one of those, you can follow it for when it launches. I think later this month or next month it will launch. And they've got a hardcover collection of the 1958 Zorro comics by Alex Toth. Alex Toth is a genius, man. He's incredible. He's so good. It also is going to include a story by Howard Chaykin and a story by Eduardo Risso. I'm sure they'll do some new comics at some point, but this is the first thing they've announced, and I love Alex Toth, so yeah. We're talking about some classic comic book artists. Yeah. Something like 256 pages. Almost all of those are the Alex Toth strips. 1958. Like most things, let's see. Zorro was created in 1919 or 1918. I think 19. One of those two. But anyway, so he would be public domain, but the exact like trademarks and the look and stuff like that can still be protected. So I think you can. I'm only sort of remembering this, but Sean Gordon Murphy did like a modern day take on Zorro recently, and he did officially license it from Zorro Productions. But I think he said he thought he probably could do it in the public domain, but he didn't want to like necessarily run into problems. I think I'm remembering that right. Don't quote me on that piece. Imagine if Zorro Books started publishing Alien comics. Imagine if. Toth is the most. Rolls right off the tongue. Right off the tongue. I did not see Grant Morrison's Substack today. They made it sound like they're doing one of the DC Marvel crossover one-shots and to expect an unlikely announcement soon. Interesting. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate that. Mostly so that I look good for you. I quoted you on 12 websites. Well, I did say it. I didn't say don't quote me beforehand. That's the problem. There's the Kickstarter link if you want to follow that. So you can always pause this and write that down. But yeah, could be good. I've seen the art. Alex Toth, man, he brought it. Ignition Press has finally announced their first comic book, and it deals with true crime podcasts. So you may remember Ignition Press was announced all the way back at last summer's San Diego Comic-Con. It was Philip Sablik, Jamie S. Rich, and Jeremy Hahn. And I want to say like a movie producer, like Eric Gitter. That one I don't care as much about. These guys are all comic book folks. And they just announced their comic, which is called Murder Podcast Cold Open. It's going to launch tomorrow on BackerKit. So that's also crowdfunded comics. Got a lot here to talk about. The story will feature season 2 of a true crime podcast launching, even though the hosts mysteriously disappeared after season 1. So it's going to be written by Jeremy Hahn, not drawn by him. Written by Hahn and art by Mike Tisserand. So, and then there's the BackerKit link there. So who knows what to expect from Ignition Press. They have connections with Hollywood, so I'm sure that most of what they're developing as comics is also being developed as a potential show or movie, but it's an interesting idea. I don't think that there's too many comics I can think of that are directly tied into crime podcasts, true crime podcasts, but I mean, that's such a huge genre, honestly. I was about to say subgenre, but it's such a genre in and of itself. A buddy of mine worked on that. I don't know if you're talking about this, or I see a bunch of people talking about Zorro the Gay Blade as well. Yeah, George Hamilton. Super tan George Hamilton as Zorro the Gay Blade. I remember seeing that on TV growing up, but I don't remember it super well, to be honest. The Diamond distribution winner. You may remember that they went into bankruptcy. The Alliance Distribution won them. And then last week, all of a sudden, the debtors were like, no, we'd like the runner-up to buy us. And so it had to go in front of a judge. So that's all been sorted. And Judge David E. Rice issued an order approving the sale to Alliance Entertainment. That happened last Friday. So the assets being purchased are specifically listed as, confusingly, this is Alliance Game Distributors. That was a piece of Diamond, though. And Alliance Entertainment is buying that. They're also buying Diamond Comic Distributors, the Collectible Grading Authority, and Diamond Select Toys. Diamond Watch, Week 6. Thanks for jumping in, Bronze Age Nerd. I'll be watching your show at 8, as long as I finish my art in time. Oh, you know Mike Tisserand. Gotcha. That's awesome. It's honestly, it sounded interesting enough that I threw it in the news. So yeah, the judge said Alliance Distribution, or they're called Alliance Entertainment, is the winner of most of these things. Alliance Game Distributors, my cat is howling. Alliance Game Distributors in here was listed as the primary focus of the purchase. That's what they wanted the most. With Diamond Comics, Diamond Select Toys, and the CGA collectively named as Lot B in the order. A lot of love for comics there. Oh yeah, the comic distribution wing, we'll call that Lot B. And you can lump it in with the toy stuff too. So I was trying to be hopeful, but I don't love how dismissive this is about the comics. I have to admit, I don't love that. Notably not included in this sale, Diamond UK, which is very profitable. I don't know who's getting that. That's their European distribution hub. Free Comic Book Day. I don't know who's getting that. The rights for that are out. Yeah. That happens obviously in a few weeks, so I don't know. But they wanted the comics distribution, the game distribution, and the toys because they already do distribution and stuff like that. The runner-up was a pair of entities. One is like a toy company that owns like WizKids and Nika. And the other part of it was a Canadian distributor whose name right now eludes me. They were the runner-up together. Maybe Diamond UK will just get its independence, but I mean, I think that it was owned by Diamond, so somebody has to sort of buy it, I think. I don't know. Steve is always a loyal Mets fan. Odd that this could be the last. I don't know about that. Yeah, it's like, yeah, technically it could be the last Free Comic Book Day ever. But it was kind of a thing that was funded by the comic book stores and comic book publishers and just created and sort of brought to fruition by Diamond. But it's not like Diamond really paid for it, even though they sort of created the idea. I don't know. Yes, hit the like button once and only once. Don't hit it twice, because then that means you took away your like. But yeah, I'd love it if you hit the like button, folks. Whoa, the likes are going up so fast. I can't keep up. I'm rich. Just kidding. What a wild ride. And the final price is going to be somewhere around $85 million for this. We don't know exactly yet because there are a bunch of factors in there. There are closing costs that will be factored into this sale price, as well as making good on the various debts. We have to get like clear numbers on all the companies that Diamond still owes. but it's expected to close by the 25th. Oh, I wish. Yeah, I would say a dull penny might be more likely, but I need to collect them. Oh, there we've got the headline for Bronze Age Nerds show in a couple hours. Dire Diamond Dilemma deals decisive division dutifully. Can't believe I said that. Ah, I know. Where's my $85 million? I know I put it somewhere. I had the Jaws manga and I had $85 million. And I know it's somewhere in this place, but I don't know where I put it. An MCU director is going to write a Werewolf by Night comic book. And if you look at the image, you can already tell who that is. Michael Giacchino. I have admired him for a while because great composer. And he did a great job, in my opinion, on that Werewolf by Night Disney Plus special. That thing was awesome. Well, the director of that is going to write Werewolf by Night Blood Moon Rise, and that comes out in July. I thought that was interesting, seeing him take an active interest in continuing to tell stories with this character. Go Jack Russell, indeed. Indeed. In addition to Giacchino's story that pits the tortured hero against Dracula, I feel like I'd lean towards Dracula winning that one. The one-shot will also have a backup story by Jason Liu, and he's the guy that writes wrote, I should say, the Werewolf by Night Red Band book that came out like 2 months ago. And it's going to celebrate the character's history and future, along with various bonus material. Probably, did he compose the music for Inside Out? I have a 45 RPM vinyl single of one of those tracks. Time to cash in and sell it. You're rich. We're all rich. We're just finding money everywhere. It's a good cover. The cover is by Tyler Kirkham. He does good work. He does good work. Yeah, it's nice. It was good. I would love to see. Probably the best way to realistically, as I'm thinking this through, keep something like Werewolf by Night or Man-Thing active in the MCU would probably be a group project like Midnight Suns. You throw in Ghost Rider, Moon Knight, Blade. That's probably the best chance we have at seeing some of these characters. I'm doing my taxes, or really Chrissy's helping me do my taxes right now. They're due tomorrow, folks. Don't forget. I always put it at the last minute because I always owe. But, oh my God, my income through YouTube and Patreon was way down from last year. So that's a bummer. But subscriptions are up, views are up, but the actual money I'm making, down. It's stinky. His Batman theme, that was good. You're right. That was real good. That was good. Boy, there's so many things that he's worked on that are good. So I actually am curious, probably curious enough to actually buy this, depending on how busy that week is that it comes out for how many comics I want to get. But I'm curious. This actually sounds kind of funny to me. Spider-Man versus the Sinister 16. That's a lot. That is a lot of enemies to fight. So J. Michael Straczynski, if you missed it, he's been writing a bunch of one-shots that feature unlikely team-ups. The one I listed here amused me the most: Rocket Raccoon and Doctor Doom. Just taking two disparate characters in the Marvel universe, throwing them together. Well, he's wrapping up those one-shots with this. It's a story that involves Spider-Man and a ton of his friends like Thor, Doctor Strange, and Clea. I can't think of who else, but a bunch of superheroes. Luke Cage and Jessica Jones, I think, are in it. And 16 spider villains. Well, not spider villains, now that I think of it, because there are characters I wouldn't call Absorbing Man or Mystique, for instance, like a traditional Spider-Man villain. But anyway, it's 16 villains. All right. JMS explained the story. And it has art by Phil Noto. The cover is by Terry and Rachel Dodson, but the interiors are by Phil Noto. Good artists all around. JMS explained this, quote, one of the most common tropes in the superhero world is that the amount of destruction that comes when heroes and villains lock horns. We all accept that it just happens. This led to thinking, what if, ... question mark, exclamation point. What if the owner of a popular restaurant has run it into the ground and needs the place to be destroyed for the insurance money and invites a ton of heroes and villains to dine all at the same time in the hope that a fight breaks out? What if initially everyone tries to stay calm and enjoy the experience, but sooner or later with that roster, the storm comes? That's a fun premise. That's the kind of stuff I feel that Dwayne McDuffie did with the original few miniseries for Damage Control. The idea of, yeah, wait a minute, like the fights with the heroes and stuff are cool, but what would the impact be on the actual world? Like somebody's cleaning all that up, or somebody's losing money, somebody's getting money. It's a decent idea, I have to admit. I like the premise. And Phil Noto, I like his art, so I might pick that one up. I might pick that up. Yeah, it's clever, right? It's a different idea. It's hilarious. That synopsis sounds amazing. Yeah, you say Fargo. I also think of things like, The Producers by Mel Brooks. Who knows? Moving forward, there's more news. Mott, thank you so much for jumping in. And thank you for, tell you what, I'm going to pause before I move on to the next piece and just say, Mott is almost always on Tyler Crook's live streams on Friday. And they're great partners because they talk with the audience together and riff. And Mott was kind enough to share a photo of their pet, and then I replied to that on Blue Sky with my pets, and then a few other people shared their pets, and I just thought that was a really positive interaction. But it's just also an excuse to plug. I love comic book live streams by artists, and on Friday there's two good ones. Daniel Warren Johnson has one, and Tyler Crook does the comic book cool down. They're both on YouTube. Great shows. Mott's a great co-host on that, reads a bunch of the comments and interacts with the audience. So thank you for watching. Thank you. Means a lot to me. So let's see. Oh, you're trying to think of who would be in there. Spider-Man himself has way more than 16, but there's also in this comic that I was just talking about other Marvel villains, to be clear. I know. Yeah, my cats are... Speaking of them, they're wild. All right. This was something that got me excited because you may not know this. I like Godzilla, but I also like comic books. I'm sharing that. Lots of people wouldn't know that, but I really like comic books. So the idea of Marvel superheroes fighting Godzilla, it's kind of up my alley. So there have been these one-shots that just started. I think that they're cool. But now there's another crossover that Toho and Marvel are going to do. Here, let me see if I can do a good Willem Dafoe voice for that. I'm something of a Godzilla fan myself, Peter. I admire that. So long, Spider-Man. All right. Godzilla destroys the Marvel Universe. It's going to be a 5-issue event series written by Jerry Duggan, drawn by Javier Garron, and then this exterior wraparound cover is by Mark Brooks. Pretty cool. Look closely at Godzilla, and you may notice something different about him if you really look. I'm going to give a piece of it away because that's the premise of this. The story is going to feature Godzilla bonding with a symbiote, and he fights the combined forces of Marvel's heroes. I swear this show is hosted by Willem Dafoe. Willem Dafoe, he always raises the movie up, doesn't he? I mean, Speed 2 is objectively a terrible film, but at least it has Willem Dafoe hamming it up as a villain in it. What else? The story promises Marvel elements including Celestials, the Dark Dimension, and Vibranium, all playing important parts in the story. Could be fun. Could be a lot of fun. I don't know. Where is Willem Dafoe from? I never thought about that. But I thought that sounded fun, and I've been enjoying... Well, there's only been one, but I enjoyed the Godzilla one-shot with the Fantastic Four set in the 60s. I liked it. That's Mark Brooks. Mark Brooks. I'll tell you something. Mark Brooks used to be on before there was really social media like there is today, we used to have web forums where we'd all chat. And so if you go back in time 25 plus years, a lot of the pros that are working today were very active on forums like Wizard World, Pencil Jack, Digital Webbing. I'm talking guys like, Kirkman and Ryan Otley. Who else? It's hard to remember, but Mark Brooks was one of them, and I really liked chatting with that guy back then. I was a jerk back then. I think I critiqued one of his drawings way too harshly, and we stopped chatting as friends. That was stupid of me because what's cool about Mark as an artist, in my opinion, is that he really continued to evolve his work. Because if you looked at like the stuff he was posting back then, it was good, but it looked a lot like, say, of the style at the time, like Joe Madureira or somebody. Not that like it was a complete copy. It wasn't like looking at, say, Roger Cruz in that era where he was doing his best Joe Madureira impression, but that was the style. And he's evolved that. And now he like basically delivers these elaborate paintings, I would call them. They're done digitally and stuff, but they're paintings. And he changed so much of what he did in terms of the angles he would draw his characters at, and the perspective and the backgrounds and the intricate detail. I don't know. I admire that he's continued to evolve his work. Rick Remender, he's awesome. Yeah, he's been killing it lately. That's right. Yeah, he was called El Diablo back then. Yeah, I wasn't super active on Yahoo groups, but just to be clear, like EJ was also on the forums back then. There were a lot of people that went on to become pros. That was just like, it was really a really nice time right around, like, I would say like 98 to 2001. Like there was just like this window where a lot of us were really, really friendly and had some good times. All right. So that begins July 16th. Speaking of Godzilla, I'm trying to tangentially relate things, have a nice, easy flow to it. Oh yeah, Mike was on the forums back then. Mike's a great artist. Travel Foreman, Riley Brown, yeah, Nate Bellegarde, Corey Walker, Tony Moore, so many great artists and writers. But yeah, a lot of great talent. So WEBTOON is going to publish Godzilla, among other things that you may see represented here. IDW announced that they've got a new partnership with WEBTOON, and they're going to bring several IDW titles that have been published to the very popular scrolling digital comics reader platform. The first 3 books that they've announced that will go there include Godzilla Unnatural Disasters, Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, and George Takei's real-life memoir, They Called Us Enemy, which is a great book, by the way. Really, really good. Well, so was Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees. I didn't read this Godzilla book, so I can't really say if that was one of the best. I don't know. I can't remember. All three of those are going to go up on WEBTOON on April 25th. So pretty soon. And then IDW and WEBTOON said there will be more titles. I wouldn't even be surprised if they create some original content there at some point. I don't know that. I'm just speculating wildly. Wild speculation. That's also how I bet on the stock market. Just wildly speculate. Oh, the futures in pineapples are going to go up. I'm putting all my money on it. No, it went down. Yeah, well, time to make a new video. Start over. So this is the latest collaboration for WEBTOON with US publishers specifically. They also have done books with DC and with Archie, and now they're doing stuff with IDW. All I do is speculate. You guys think I care about like the art of storytelling? No. All I'm doing is behind the scenes, I'm flipping comics. I'm getting them slabbed so that no one can ever read them again, and I'm flipping them. That's all I care about is slabbing and flipping. Outside of this, they call me Slabby Flippy. That's my nickname, Slabby Flippy. It's a terrible nickname. But it's a lot better than my old rap name, Rappy-O. They called me Rappy-O. Well, I'm a rapper, and I'm here to say I'm gonna rap with you today. All right. I don't know what I'm doing here. It was really cool to see you include values in your recalled comics. Oh, yeah, I did do that a little bit. Because, that's kind of what it was. But thank you. I had fun doing that one. I had fun. That was a silly one. Flabby Slippy. Yeah, Flabby Slippy would be worse. I'm Slabby Flippy. But Flabby Slippy, well, they call me that too, to be honest. So I'm Slabby Flippy in the comics world, but outside of this, I'm a fatso that falls down a lot, and they call me Flabby Slippy. So those are actually both nicknames that, yeah, I didn't ask for, but I did get. Uh-oh. My friend Chuck's going to come in here. Slabby Flippy popping off. I'll think of a name for you, Chuck. You're Tacoma-y Beardy. Oh, wait, that didn't really work. Doesn't work for everyone. Slip sliding away. All right. John Wagner doing a final Judge Dredd story. Film at 11. Have a $2 tip for $2 worth of rap. Have you guys, you made me think of something. Have you ever seen anybody here? Do you watch Mr. Show? I know it was like late 90s HBO. So like probably not everybody's seen it, but I love Mr. Show. One of my all-time favorite sketch comedy shows. And within that, one of my favorite sketches was when Bob Odenkirk is the new Dalai Lama, but he's forced to engage in a rap battle with the fat rich kids from the summer camp across the lake. And he gets up there all nervous and he just starts going, a rap, a rap-a-dap-dap, a rap, a rap. And like the fat rich kids all like, get angry and frustrated because, of course, that great rapping won them the contest. Oh my God, I loved it. Inflation hit rap hard. Slabby Flippy on the streets, Flabby Slippy in the sheets. Oh, wait, I totally messed that up. Pretend I didn't do any of that. All right, let's do news. I'm safe there. We'll do news. John Wagner. John M.F.N. Wagner. Yeah, I said that on YouTube. So Judge Dredd's co-creator is John Wagner, and he's indicated that he's working on his final Judge Dredd story called Death of a Judge. If you're not aware, it's understandable. But Judge Dredd is awesome. Created back in 1977 at 2000 AD by John Wagner, of course, artist Carlos Ezquerra, and the editor Pat Mills. Great team. Great team. So this news came up because John Wagner was recently interviewed by Tripwire magazine, and he was talking about a comic that he's got coming out called Spectre Incorruptible. And that actually happens to feature the last artwork of Carlos Ezquerra, who passed away last year. During the interview, Wagner just said, sort of in passing, that he's working on his final Judge Dredd story. Then everyone was sort of like, wait, what? So the magazine followed up, and Wagner clarified. He said, I'm nearing the end of my career. I'm not saying I won't write another Dredd, but I have no wish to start turning out second-rate material just for a bit of cash. So, unless my heart is truly in it, I won't. Of course, if the perfect Dredd story pops into my head, I'll be happy to write it. So, people were like a little like, oh, wait, the creator of Judge Dredd isn't going to write anymore? And it's more like, no, he's just being very, very picky about what he's going to put out at this point in his career. So, yeah. Just for the taste of it, Diet Dew. All right. Yeah, it's a good work ethic, that's all. Wagner has had a heck of a career, one of the best to do it. He deserves a nice rest. Maybe. I just, I admire him that he's not just trying to just cash in on whatever he can do. Carl Urban, best Judge Dredd. I mean, it's just between him and Stallone, right? Like, is there anybody else that's like, did they do anything else, like in animation or anything? I don't think so. There's really just two Judge Dredds, right? Am I forgetting anything? Judge Dredd should be like a TV show on HBO or something. That would be cool. Moving on. Trump and Musk are super villains in a comic. Do I have any Canadian viewers here tonight? If so, you'll enjoy this bit, I think. So, Captain Canuck. Captain Canuck. Maybe you've heard about him. Created all the way back in 1975. So this is actually his 50th year. He's been licensed to Chapter House Comics since 2012, and they've put out a few miniseries. He's Canada's super strong Canadian Mountie, during the day, superhero, by night, superhero. He's awesome. Aliens gave him super strength. Yeah, look at this. Canadian here, Captain Canuck. There we go. We've at least got a pair. Yeah, it's still happening. It's animated, so it's just taking a while, but it's happening. It's happening. Newfoundland. Elbows up. Elbows up. So, yes. I want to be Canadian. I don't blame you. I don't. Half Canadian. Oh, I'd accept that, Anyway. Whoops. I formatted this weird. Forget that it says Musk there. So, at last month's Toronto Comic-Con, they printed a special anniversary cover here, which I'm showing. And it shows Captain Canuck chastising Trump based on Trump's, as we talked about earlier tonight, real world taunts where he keeps threatening to annex Canada, like turn it into the 51st state. He'd never do that. It means that there would never be another Republican elected. But anyway, he keeps saying that he's going to institute tariffs on Canada. So they put out this cover, and I just thought that it was kind of funny. Reuters spoke to the original creator, well, one of the co-creators, I should say, the artist, Richard Cumley, who said that the hero has become a bit of a rally point lately for Canadians. And the news outlet showed video, including Cumley drew Captain Canuck holding up both Trump and Musk by their underpants, giving them mega wedgies. So that was kind of funny. It'll sell like poutine. I love poutine. Haven't had it in ages, but I love it. I got to get back up to Vancouver. It's only about 3-hour drive from me. I love Vancouver. It's a great city. It's a great city. Anyway, I thought that was just sort of a funny cover. It's just meant to be silly. Planet Death has had almost 1 million copies printed. That's a lot. That's a lot. I mean, we talk about, big print runs of 175,000. In rare cases, there's been like 400,000 lately. And if you count reprints and stuff, some of the recent stuff like Transformers gets way up there. But this is having an initial print run of almost 1 million copies. Let's talk about it. So, Bad Idea says that issue 0 here of their new comic Planet Death has nearly 1 million copies printed, and they also claim that it's the biggest print run for an indie comic since Image's launch books in 1992. Now, that's not technically accurate, but there were a bunch of Image and Valiant books in 1993. It's only off by 1 year, but in 1993, there were a few that also went over 1 million. There was stuff like, I know the Max #1 went over that. There was Magnus Robot Fighter #25 for some reason went over it. Went over 1 million, I mean. One of the Deathmate books that year, 93, went over 1 million, but still, it's not common in any era for there to be more than 1 million initially. It just isn't. It's an impressive number. It's an impressive number. I'm not trying to take that away from them. But also, you do have to say, well, yeah, an indie comic, because if we count stuff like Dogman, which is absolutely a comic book, that's definitely over 1 million, just to be clear. That's definitely over 1 million. Yeah, poutine is basically just French fries, cheese curds, and gravy. And then you can doctor it up in different ways by adding other things to it. But that's basically all you need. It's really good. It's really good. The heat melts the cheese curds a bit, so it's feels like mozzarella, gravy, fries. It's really good when it's made well. Going back to Planet Death and Bad Idea, the final print run is 909,560 copies. And of that, it's over 818,000 copies ordered by shops, and a little shy of 100,000 reserved for complimentary copies to, artists and various creators, people involved in it. They've got to always have damages in there, promotional use. So taken to conventions as giveaways or things like that. That said, how did they get that high? Well, it was made available to retailers in bundles of 25 for $7.50 each. Pretty cheap, right? They were selling it, at a loss, obviously. And then there were even further discounts if you ordered more than 25. So that costs less than it costs comic stores to buy the comics, at least most of the comics, for Free Comic Book Day. The stores do still pay something for that. The fact that it's coming out right around Free Comic Book Day, it means that this was treated as both a comic and a Free Comic Book Day comic. So yeah, 25 copies for $7.50 each. So it's a lot of copies, though. It definitely is. There's some promotional consideration being given there. But I consider that just clever marketing. They timed it out at a certain point. They sold it at a certain price. I just consider that good business to get that many out there. And I've seen it, and the art is incredible. We'll see. So expect to see that on Free Comic Book Day, I would say. It's been hard. This is another one that I've had a hard time keeping quiet, because we recently talked about Kyle Higgins working on Spider-Verse versus Venomverse, and how he had the live-action Japanese Spider-Man suit updated with modern tokusatsu references. Well, another one that I knew about was this. Kyle Higgins, Dan Mora, a bunch of other people are creating a Tokusatsu Batman. It's a marketing gimmick, but it could work. Definitely. Yeah, I think it was clever. No, read that as Tonkatsu Batman. Yeah. We're going to fry him. We're going to put him in there with some delicious things. We're gonna get some soba noodles. Actually, we're gonna get some. We're gonna put a fried egg on top for no reason. So what is this anyway? What is this? Tokusatsu Batman at C2E2. That was this past weekend. Big convention. New Elseworlds title was announced. I can read this for you actually. Probably, maybe some of you guys can read this part down here in the white, but this says, Fumetsu no Densetsu. Fumetsu no Densetsu Batman. This translates to Immortal Legend. Immortal Legend Batman. That's a fun name. Fumetsu no Densetsu Batman. Batman. So what are we talking about here? I'm going too slow. By the entire team of Inferno Girl Red, underrated comic. I remember reviewing the first issue, really enjoyed it. So features designs by Dan Mora, but then the Inferno Girl Red team comes in. We've got writers Kyle Higgins and Matt Groom, artist Erica Durso, colorist Igor Monti, letterer Becca Carey. Really admire that team. So what's the premise? Humanity used dark energy to travel between megacities established on other planets, but it came with a price. They allowed these things called shadows to enter our world. These sort of like mindless, violent creatures that just want to create chaos. 3 heroes, however, have been able to harness the energy to fight back. We've got Batman, Robin, and Nightwing. So yeah, designs by Dan Mora, cool covers by Dan Mora, and the creative team behind Inferno Girl Red on this story. Could be a fun Elseworlds take on Batman for sure. Immortal Legend Batman with art by Dan Mora. I need to get this, yes. Delicious Bento Batman. Dan Mora is awesome. He's having quite the career high point right now. Tokusatsu Batman versus live action Spider-Man. I'd give it to Spider-Man. He's the emissary of hell. He's much more vicious. I think it sounds cool. We'll see. Yeah, Erica Durso is the interior artist, to be clear. Dan Mora is doing like the covers and designs. But Erica Durso is a great artist. No, like I don't think anybody would have complaints about her artwork. She's great. She's sincerely great. How many Western artists attempt a manga style? Has any manga artist really done a Western style? No question, but like just to be clear, if you look at manga today versus, well, wait a minute. Like, let me back that way up. Because it's an interesting question, Circuitron. But I would say if you look at the earliest manga, if we look at Osamu Tezuka's artwork, that was totally inspired by things like the Disney comic books that World War II soldiers left behind in Japan. So the earliest manga was heavily influenced by the West. They came up with a lot of their own tropes throughout the 50s, 60s, 70s. But by like the late 90s, I think you can definitely start seeing Western influence impacting back, just like you can see Eastern art impacting the West. So I think like there's a lot of back and forth at this point. It's a very connected world. But like the original like manga, like their starting point was very, very much influenced by the West, just to be clear. Of course, they had their own influences too, and that's what makes it unique. But yeah, it's a lot to talk about, so I'll just leave it there. Good question, though, or comment. Shredder is getting his own comic. I can't believe that Shredder's never had a comic before, but I can't think of like any kind of ongoing Shredder comic before. I'm sure he's had a one-shot, but yeah, Shredder's getting his own comic. Dan Waters is going to write this TMNT spinoff focused on Shredder that begins in August. And Waters, man, he's worked for everybody except I think IDW. Did Loki at Marvel, did tons of stuff at DC. He's done Batman stuff. I liked a bunch of the stuff he's done at Image, specifically Skybound. He did the Destro miniseries for the Energon universe, and he did the with Matt. I'm blanking on names right now, but he did the Universal Monsters Creature of the Black Lagoon book. Anyway, Dan Waters is good writer. Super busy guy. Works for a bunch of people. Covers by Stepan Sajic, and I'm so sorry that I'm probably still not getting your name right, Stepan. Kyle New, Daiki Ruan, but no word on the story or interior artist yet. So that's all we know. Pretty cool idea, though. Shredder's an awesome villain. He's awesome because he's very capable. Well, I should say in the comics, he's typically very capable. Obviously, he was a bit of a buffoon on the original cartoon. I almost sort of forgot, the Uncle Phil voiced Shredder was a bit of a buffoon, but Shredder's awesome. Shage, you're probably right. Shredder in Hell. I think you're right. That was a comic. Yeah, that's right. Dan Waters worked for Titan on the latest Doctor Who stuff. So super busy. But Shredder's awesome. What's your favorite take on Shredder? Because there's been so many different takes on Ninja Turtles. Different cartoons, different comic book runs, movies. What's your favorite overall take on Shredder? I would say for me, I really like the IDW ongoing version of Shredder. I think he's very capable and cool and dangerous. I would say that that's probably my favorite overall take. Don't know. I think it's ongoing, but I don't know for sure. One time, Shredder threw a net made of dough and said, "Here, have a dough net. Tonight I dine on turtle soup." Kevin Nash Super Shredder. Yep. Yeah, overall, but they have the advantage of pulling from the past and putting something together. But I think they did a good job. Turtles everywhere, but not one of them a blasted ninja. Oh, that would be the worst. I grew up on the 03 cartoon. That was a wild take. That one, Shredder was an Utrom, right? That one was Shredder was actually an Utrom, sort of masquerading as a human. Am I wrong? I think I've got that right. There have been so many versions, but I have to admit the one I know the least is actually the 03 cartoon, the one I know the least. Giant robot Hellboy is returning. Tonight's just a night for talking about all sorts of tokusatsu and kaiju and giant robot stuff. So, Dark Horse originally solicited... I almost got that word out. Hey, I'm not some sort of enunciator. I'm a comic book talker guy. What do you want out of me? Dark Horse originally solicited a 2-issue sequel series for Giant Robot Hellboy. It's going to be by Mike Mignola, art by Duncan Fegredo. That was solicited for March of 2025. It was supposed to come out. Was it March of 2025 or March of 2024? I think it was supposed to come out, but it didn't come out, obviously. According to Bleeding Cool, it will now come out. This doesn't make sense at all. I copied this, but these dates don't make any sense. I copied this and I must have messed up. So I got this news all jumbled. It's going to come out December and January is the short of it. Let me just simplify it. I don't know what I did there with the dates. The premise: scientists comb the deep sea for any sign of giant robot Hellboy after his disappearance, but find more than they bargained for when an interdimensional portal threatens to pull them in or let monsters of unknown origin out. Sounds a little bit Pacific Rimmy. Pacific Rimmy was also my nickname in college. I wish I could tell you why, but YouTube won't let me. I'm being ridiculous. I'm being silly. One more piece of news. In giant robot Hellboy was like kidnapped by these scientists and forced to power a gigantic robot version to go up against a living island. It was just wild. It was fun. It was really fun. The original miniseries was 3 issues. Then they decided to do 2 more issues. I think there could be 2 Shredders, yeah. Like there was a real original guy, and then the one that the Utrom was sort of impersonating, we'll say. One more piece of news. Comic sales seem to be up. So I'm getting this because there's a guy called Adam Freeman who runs Prana Direct Market Solutions, and they specifically track it's he, and I think he's got some people that work with him, but they track comic sales data and fan enthusiasm, and they do that for publishers, for conventions, for stores. They can all get access to this data. Maybe I should be getting it. I don't know. He shared a bunch of his measurements on a panel at C2E2. So pre-order and subscription numbers are up 38% from January of 2023 year over year. So more fans are engaging with actively asking for the comics that they want up front. That's gone up. That's nice. On top of the sales growth, Freeman states that multiple retailers were reporting an increase in younger teenage readers starting pull lists for things like Absolute Comics from DC, as well as like Ultimate stuff from Marvel. He had a quote there saying that to the younger readers, their quote is saying things like, "This feels like it's my Batman." You know, there's a Batman out there, but that's your granddaddy's Batman. This is my Batman. And I get that. Makes sense. Angry Thumbnails told me comics were dying because women existed. If comics are dying, and maybe they are, we'll find out. But it seems like that's been happening for 40 years. It's been a very slow, excruciating death. Very slow, very slow. One more piece of news. Average comics sell-through increased 20% year on year since 2023. So there's just some good data on comics selling. And that fans are a little more engaged than they used to because they're actually asking for things ahead of time. They're more in the know. They're more in the know. Is this actually working the same for all the local comic shops? No, it's an aggregate data from a lot of different sources. So it's overall. There could be examples of a store having tough times, but there are lots of variables in any equation. What we're saying is that if you take all the data overall, fans at comic shops ordering more and ordering early. So that's good. Comics don't seem to be massively affected by inflation specifically, no. Hi, Kat. Tell you what, I want to do some more stuff here. Let's swap over to... Hi. Jack, did you want to be on TV? I call this TV. I know it's streaming video. Oh, buddy. He's trying to get my attention by jumping up on some comics on this shelf. Hold on, I'm going to grab him. Hi. Are you going to be good? You going to be a good boy? Oh, my little man. Oh, my little man. You going to say hi to everybody? Hello. Hello. I'm a naughty boy. I'm going to squirm all over the place. I love this guy, though. I love him. He's so rascally. Please don't climb on the stuff, bud. Okay? Don't climb. All right. Thank you for bearing with me while I threw my cat all around this place. He's probably getting hungry. This is about the time when he and his sister have their dinner. I'm just setting up a camera here, folks, so that I can show you the comics that I picked up this week and give some quick thoughts on recommendations or not on various things. Yes, bud. What are you climbing on now? Oh, that's your kitty condo. That's fine. Sorry. All right. Let's see. We're going to present another camera in high def. Yeah, that should work. Doesn't feel like it's quite in focus, though. Bear with me. Just trying to find the exact... I have the hardest time with this thing because I don't have a good mechanism for holding this camera yet. I haven't quite found the right thing for it yet. First comic I want to talk about is Absolute Batman issue 7. It starts a new storyline. Still written by Scott Snyder. Guest artist is Marcos Martin, who's very cool. And it is about... Well, it's about Batman, of course, but it also introduces a new take on Mr. Freeze. And it almost just takes that name and then throws everything else out the window. There's a lot of interesting stuff that they do here with, sorry, that's an ad, with Batman and his relationship with his friends, his childhood friends. He actually, in this comic, is friends with... I'll just use their supervillain names to keep it easy. Killer Croc, Two-Face, Riddler, and Penguin. Okay? But they're not supervillains at this point. They were childhood friends that have all grown up. And they actually know his secret, that Bruce Wayne is Batman. Wait, hold on. Lily saw Jack on TV and got confused. Chrissy sometimes has this streaming on her TV upstairs while she's working. So she said that one of the cats saw the other cat and got confused. That's so funny. I had to stop gardening to gander at Jack. Jeez. Oh, man. I like that they've got this different relationship. He also has a friend, Matches Malone. Matches Malone is a friend. And obviously he's a guy that's not doing as well as the other guys. You know, he looks to be an addict, but he's a loyal friend to them. And so, yeah, in this comic, Matches Malone isn't just sort of an identity that Batman creates or you know, a small level criminal in the underworld. He's an actual friend. I'm going to skip over some of the stuff that happens with him because I don't want to spoil too much. Look at that. That's a pretty cool shot, isn't it? An interesting angle of Batman gliding through the city. But specifically, there's some mysterious stuff going on with a company that works in cryogenics, and this version of Mr. Freeze is basically Victor Freeze Jr. So forget the whole thing about, you know, either just being a bank robber or being a guy like in the animated series from 92 where his wife, you know, he had cryogenically frozen and he's trying to save her or anything. No, this is like a weird kid that has his parents like cryogenically frozen right now. And it involves an interesting idea about cryogenic research, which is real. Scientists are always going and drilling into the glaciers in places like, I don't know, I could be wrong about the exact places, but, Antarctica, as well as like, Finland and stuff. They drill into the ice and take samples. It tells them all sorts of stuff. But what about those like weird old bacterias or things like that could be in there? Something weird seems to have happened to this kid with that. I won't give away because we actually don't even know necessarily what's happening to him, but he was exposed to something, I think, from like really old ice samples. And he's creepy. He's so disturbing. So I give all the credit in the world to the animated series for coming up with a take on Mr. Freeze that actually made him relevant and interesting. You got to understand, before 92, Mr. Freeze was not a top tier villain. He was basically just a bank robber with a freeze gun. And at that point, you're like, well, we've already got like Captain Cold. And, honestly, like DC has a ton of evil Icemen. There's like Chillblain and Killer Frost. And there's like about like 5 or 6 cold-based supervillains in DC. There's way too many. There's way too many. And honestly, Mr. Freeze was not a super interesting villain in DC for a long time. It was when the animated series re-envisioned him as sort of a guy who had like shut off his emotions. His heart was cold because of the stuff that like happened to his wife and how he was a scientist that was trying to save his wife. And those are cool ideas. And plus like the voice that they got, and I don't remember the name of the actor who did the voice for Mr. Freeze in the animated series, but he did an amazing job on it. He really, they made Mr. Freeze interesting and relevant again. And then it was kind of almost completely sidelined by the weird live action take with Arnold going, your pleas have left me cold, Batman. Just give me like all the puns and all. Michael Ansara, thank you, folks. Yes, Michael Ansara just did a great voice for Mr. Freeze on the animated show. Michael Ansara. Your pleas have left me cold. What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age. Cool party. Let's kick some ice. Yes, we will kick some ice, and then we will do some steroids. Arnold and Jabba. Hey, I never pretended to be a professional. Arctic archaeologist for over a decade. Once frozen fungus and old virus things are always popping up. Something didn't translate there. It must be an autocorrect issue. Cryogenic science was a big presence up there. I never bumped into Mr. Freeze, though. What killed humanity? The Ice Age. That was such a bad take. Anyway, let me just put it this way. Batman with the new take on Mr. Freeze is ironically what I would describe as fire. This issue is fire. Now, this is a great, great issue, honestly. There was something interesting that Marcos Martin did here. His conversation with Bruce Wayne and his childhood friends, he puts them all in silhouette for the entire time. He doesn't ever have them step into the light together. Let me see if I can find another. Yeah. The whole time he has them in silhouette. I thought that was an interesting choice to sort of hide the faces. And so in a way, this is a Batman and friends who seem very cold and distant because we're not really connecting with them all the time by seeing their faces. That was an interesting storytelling decision, showing that this is a Batman that's cold. So yeah. I liked it. I liked it a lot. So Amazing Spider-Man got relaunched. Got Joe Kelly writing, Pepe Larraz on art. And actually, just to be clear, John Romita Jr. is still working on the book with 2 backup stories in this. And here, I'll just show you this because this is a very nice spread. with a bunch of villains chasing Spider-Man. It's dynamic. I like the artwork very, very much. I like some of the humor in this. What else do I like? I like actually how they treat Aunt May in this, because they've finally sort of found a version that looks sort of this cross between they started to draw her too young in a way versus like how she'd always been portrayed. But you can't draw her as that like basically zombie that honestly Ditko and Ramita would draw. They've come up with a happy medium that's convincing, you know. They've got a good subplot with what she's going on. In this issue, Rhino has gone absolutely crazy for no discernible reason, and that means that he also has a heart attack, and Spider-Man has to try to use CPR to revive this guy that's in a humongous Rhino suit. You know, that's pretty cool. There's various subplots. I'm going to sort of skip past that because it's not relevant to what I'm talking about, but I did like this. Okay. I don't know if this was Joe Kelly or if this is Pepe Larraz, but Spider-Man decides to investigate, and he goes to Rhino, Alexi's apartment to look for clues. He's like, why did he go crazy? And what gave him a heart attack? You know, like there's no reason for these things. How well can you guys see that like panel? You can see it fairly well, right? I mean, that's Seinfeld's apartment. This is just flat out Seinfeld's apartment. That's where Rhino lives, is in Seinfeld's apartment. Does that mean Rhino is canonically neighbors with Kramer? I wonder. I want to know more about that. Look, I liked it. At the same time, I would not say that this was quite enough of a unique mystery to captivate me to continue with this. I need a pretty big excuse to stick with superhero books right now, and that means really spectacular art or spectacular writing, ideally both. And I would consider this very, very good artwork. I really would. I think that the characters are engaging. I think that the line art is, you know, fun and unique and cool, but it's not quite enough to get me to, story-wise, to get me to care. And then there's like these backup stories showing what's going on with Norman Osborn. I guess he's not evil anymore. Fine. And then there's like a subplot at the back where some new villain emerges from the ground. I think it's some of the better artwork that I've seen lately from John Romita Jr., but I also just I just don't care, to be honest. That's very positive. Larraz is worth it. Hopefully Kramer doesn't get a visit from Mayor Luke Cage. Sweet Christmas. Kramer is the new Hobgoblin. Did Poppy pee on the couch? Yeah, it's Seinfeld's apartment. Good. I'm glad people agree with me. Let me pull that back up because that's just what it is. Yeah. And I wonder if that was done for fun in either the script or the drawing, or did he just grab that as reference and just go like, that's an apartment? No, I don't think you could do that because it's just too famous a set. It's just too famous. What's the deal with Spider-Man? I mean, they're not men made out of spiders. What's the deal? Hobgoblin is his Newman. Who would be Rhino's version of Elaine? I don't know. Lady Electro? Can we get some more likes for this discovery? I don't know if it's a big discovery, but I was just like, I'm like reading it and I go, oh, it's Seinfeld's apartment. Oh, wait, did he put the bike on the wall? I keep going back. Wasn't there a bike on the wall somewhere? Maybe I'm forgetting. Maybe I'm not remembering right. I don't know. Whatever. I want to talk about this one a little bit more, but I'm only going to give like short little reviews for some of these. Uncanny X-Men has some beautiful artwork by David Marquez. And I do like that this comic focuses so much on these sort of literal new mutants. But I don't know, like it's starting to sort of lose me a little bit. It's a good mix of character drama and action and stuff, and the art is always rock solid. But I was kind of sticking with it because I knew that Gavin Guidry was going to do an issue of Gambit in New Orleans, and I have a lot of affection for New Orleans, so I was kind of curious. I'd say it's good, but I don't know if it's spectacular enough to justify me keep spending. I'm looking for excuses on what to cut. I'm looking for excuses. I don't know yet. I'm on the fence because I do still enjoy this. I'm trying to decide where to spend my money. I enjoy it, but I don't love it. I will stick with Transformers. This is real quick, an issue that gives us a flashback about Megatron. We'd had a 2-issue flashback giving us details on Starscream with a guest artist. Similar thing here. Ludo Lullaby is the guest artist. Recently was the artist on bringing back Battle Chasers by Joe Madureira. Whatever happened with that, by the way? Like, I remember I read like one issue and then I feel like I never heard about it again. Did I just miss that? I don't know. That's part of my problem, is it? And I don't really blame Gail at all for that. It's part of the gig too. But I do feel that the crossovers in X-Men kill the momentum for all their books. It's just not for me. Anyway, the artwork is really fun. And just real quick, I don't want to summarize this or anything. I'll just like let you see a couple pages of the artwork. It's a good fit. There's Megatron transforming into a tank, and this does involve like some key aspects of Megatron in terms of his transformation modes and how powerful he is and stuff. What it's doing, though, at the end of the day, is it really does build him up as a big threat. And they've definitely, it's the creators of the comic, Daniel Warren Johnson and Jorge Corona, and, in this case, Ludo Lullaby. They're all doing a really nice job of building up the threat of Megatron before he even confronts a single Autobot in the story. It's really nice. Oh, he did put Battle Chasers on hiatus again? What was the point of bringing it back unless you had like at least 6 issues ready to go? That frustrates me a little. Moon is following us. Also, like, rock solid right now. Totally going to stick with this. Come on. Sometimes you get pages of Daniel Warren Johnson art. That for me is worth the price of admission. Wild ideas with dream logic and child logic. And I appreciate that they mix that into the fantasy world. That it isn't just a fantasy story. It literally uses the logic of how our dreams work and how children think. That helps make this special. So that I recommend too. Incredible Hulk. I feel like we're building to some sort of conclusion to his current sidekick story. This is issue 24. Does not have Nick Klein on anything other than the cover. I really would love to see Nick Klein do more interiors. But we've got Kev Walker doing a very good job inside. A great story by Philip Kennedy Johnson. This is like Hulk's current sidekick, a girl named Charlie, who has been abused and stuff growing up, and she always admires the Hulk for his strength. And she's finally gotten the ability to turn into a werewolf creature, but that just means that she's become a huge target by these demons, and it's slowly corrupting her. And I feel like we're moving towards a conclusion there. I just like this. The villains trap Hulk in a supernatural like room that doesn't have standard physics, okay? Which means it doesn't have like gamma. And these werewolves come in and kill Bruce Banner. But what's hilarious is then they come back to report to their boss, and they're like, yeah, we killed Banner. And she's like, good. And they're like, yeah, he was delicious. She's like, wait, you ate him? And they're like, she's like, tell me you didn't actually eat him, that you just left him dead in that room. And they're like, oh no, we were hungry, we did eat him. Hulk can come back from anything, folks. So there's some great scenes in this of an eaten Hulk coming back and reconstituting himself because these werewolves were too dumb and too greedy. They ate him. They shouldn't have eaten him. Not Dormammu. For those super deep into comics lore, you may know that Clea is actually not technically human. She's Faltine, like Dormammu. I think she's like his niece or something. I can't remember that off the top of my head. Anyway, it's a villain masquerading as Clea in her true form. But that's what Clea looks like if she wasn't, using illusion. The last one I'll talk about, though, just have a few more things to say about it, and then I'll draw a little bit with everybody tonight. The Ultimates. This is interesting. It's got its regular team. It's got Dennis Camp writing. It's got Juan Frigeri on art. And we get a story of the Avengers, Thor and Sif, on sort of a side story to reclaim Asgard. The big villain of Ultimates is a guy called Maker, who has put Loki in charge of all of Asgard. Helped him kill Odin, and Loki's in charge. Well, now Thor and Sif are on this mission. What it means is that every page is a splash page, folks. It's meant to be told like an epic poem. It's done in the style like a comic book take on Viking poems. Some of the oldest surviving stories we have are things like Beowulf, right? Which is basically, a Viking poem. And so they've done a take on that. It's every page is like an epic splash page, and it's written in poetry. Omniscient third person. And I admire this issue very much for its creativity in that regard. I really do. Like the idea of telling a story in splash pages with poetry is a very different take on how to make a superhero comic. It's very different. I'm not going to go too far because I don't want to give away too much. Yes, your ears are burning. Exactly right. I will say that I only intermittently enjoyed the poetry. The overall gist of the story that they tell in this is actually quite interesting because there are a few little twists to what's happening with Thor and what they do to sort of retake their homeland. I'm not going to get into that because that's spoilery. I just want to talk about the actual sort of structure that they decided to use. There are definitely a bit of elements that remind you of Prince Valiant. You love the issue. I loved what it was going for. And I think it got, for me, somewhere between 75 to 80% of the way there. I just didn't love all the poetry, but I will say that that's also a failing of mine. Just never been huge into poetry. Always felt like that's some sort of a failing of mine, that I just don't engage with poetry too much. But I as much as I love reading and writing, I've just never been massively into any particular poets. I appreciate it here and there. I'm not saying that I just dislike it. I'm just saying that I'm just not a fan of that. So I only intermittently liked the poetry aspect, but I liked the actual story beneath it, and I admired the idea of telling it in splash pages. And I liked on the meta level that it really is, if it's going to be a story about Thor, I loved the idea that it was trying to evoke a comic book take on old Norse poetry. I liked that idea a lot. And so that gives it enough weight that I really did enjoy this. I would say for the current X-Men era, I like it. I don't love it, but also I basically bailed on all the books except Uncanny X-Men. It just wasn't quite enough to hook me. It's good. Yeah, and I'm just explaining my preferences and my biases so that you guys can help decide if this is the kind of comic that you want to read. You know what I'm saying? So ultimately, I admire very, very much what Camp and Frigeri went for here. I admire the attempt very, very much. The poetry itself, I liked intermittently. The story, I liked. So there's a lot that I like. Way more that I liked than there's nothing I disliked. I just didn't connect to all of it, if that makes sense. You know, I bailed on Ultimate Black Panther, and I often like the writing of Brian Edward Hill, but it just it was one of these comics where it's both trying to, I think it was trying to do too much too fast, I guess, for me. Just establish an awful lot of supporting characters in Wakanda, as well as, you know, Killmonger and Storm, as well as the villains. It's a lot of world building, which I like, but I prefer how it's been doled out in Ultimates, Ultimate Spider-Man, and Ultimate X-Men, which I think has doled it out much more slowly. I felt overwhelmed with all the world-building elements of Black Panther, and that there wasn't enough time to connect to the character himself. That was my problem. But I always like to choose one book of the week for this channel. I always like to choose one book of the week. And I think this week, the contenders would ultimately be sort of prioritizing it. It would be between these two issues, the Ultimates and Absolute Batman, which also just sort of shows how successful I think the Absolute and Ultimate lines are. I think that they're very good. My ultimate choice, no pun intended, for book of the week is actually going to be Absolute Batman. I choose Absolute Batman issue 7 as my book of the week. And I do that for several reasons, but basically it was a complete success from cover to cover with both storytelling and art. And I really admire the ideas behind the creation of this new villain, Mr. Freeze. I found him incredibly disturbing. I was trying not to show too many of the pages that really sell the horror of what he is. But I like that he's so horrific. I thought that was really cool. That said, I enjoyed just about everything I read this week, and I would say that this is a strong runner-up because of how ambitious it was with its storytelling. There's a lot to recommend about issue 11. There's a lot, as I was saying, that I admire about how it tries to evoke old Norse poetry in comic book format for a story about Thor. Very admirable. I just would say that I have to go with what I enjoyed the most. And this week, this is what I enjoyed the most. So I hope that helps a little bit with any of your decision making on what you might want to read these days and where to spend your dollars. That said, let's bring back this view. I'm going to zoom in a little, and I'll do some drawing and chatting with everyone there. Let me get zoomed in a little bit more, though. Yeah. What did you read this week that I might be missing out on? I would love to hear recommendations from anybody that has a strong opinion on a comic right now. But yeah, I've got a little time before the Bronze Age Nerd Show starts in about an hour, which I always enjoy watching. So that's my cool down, and this is a little bit of a cool down. Thank you. I've been noodling away at this in pencil for quite a while. I'm going to take off my glasses since they're really more for distance, and focus on what I can do with the detail on this. Anybody mention any good comics that I'm missing out on? And then I've got some other things to talk about. I am so curious what the digital version of Absolute Martian Manhunter looks like, because those final 2 pages are creatively stunning with how to enjoy and appreciate them as a comic book. It's something you can really only appreciate, I think, physically, but I wonder what they did, if anything, for the digital version. Oops, I missed something. Berserk, yeah, I love Berserk. Love it. I haven't read Batman Dark Patterns, but I would like to. I've heard good things, and I do like both Dan Waters and Hayden Sherman a lot. So I've kind of like missed it, but I'll get that in trade paperback, I think. Yeah. Wow. Oh, I'm jealous, Steve. I love Asadora. Aquaman. I wouldn't necessarily call Absolute Batman darker. I would say that it's a little more. It's grounded in the sense that it's a Batman who has less, so he's overcoming more. Because it is a little over the top with his gadgets, but I kind of love that gadget stuff. I don't know Strange Fruit. Scott Collins' book Patra. Mothra, Queen of the Monsters, and Herculoids. Herculoids did look very interesting. Not a new one. I started rereading Scott Pilgrim. Right on. Right on. You know, the only issue of Storm I read, and I got it because it had the David Nakayama cover, but it was pretty good. It was pretty darn good. Hard into Euro and manga lately. Good for you, Andy. Yeah. There's so much good stuff out there. I'm excited for next issue. Yeah. I liked this relaunch of Ninja Turtles, but it's growing on me even more as time goes on. Bear with me. I'm just focusing a little on an outline aspect of Godzilla's head, and I want to make sure that I don't sort of mess up the details. So I'm just sort of focused on the art a little bit, and then I'll take a look at chat. Never trying to ignore any of you. I just can't get all of the chats, obviously. It's intimidating to draw Godzilla when we have professional artists actually in the chat. But I like to draw what I like to draw. You know? I should probably draw more original stuff, but I love drawing the detail on like Godzilla for texture. And different Godzillas have slightly different texture. I've never read Inuyasha. Maybe I should. Oh, Rob De La Torre is perfect for Conan. Perfect. Such a good fit. Oh, cool. For the first time you're reading Alan Moore's Swamp Thing? Quite the run. Quite the run. Oh, thank you, Lissandro. The digital copy of Absolute Martian Manhunter came with an extra page showing the result. It probably just can't carry the same weight, but I'm glad that they included it. I'm glad. This is a better Godzilla than a lot of Godzilla art out there. I don't know about that. I don't know about that, EJ, but I just love drawing the big G. There are also professional kaiju here in the chat. Have I mentioned on this stream that I really love my wife? She makes me laugh, folks. It's really important. Find somebody that you can get along with and treats you well. It counts for a lot. but also find someone that's willing to go play arcade games and claw machine games, because that's what I want to do. And Chrissy doesn't. That's okay. I really spent some time thinking out where I was going to just spot a few big black areas, and I hope I have made good choices there. I hope. What else is being discussed? Check your texts. I sent you a question. That's so funny how we communicate that way. Yes, Chrissy. Yeah, it's fine with me. It's on the small counter beside the couch. I miss my wife, Tails. Is that a famous Sonic quote from the Ken Penders era? I'm just guessing. I got the first collection of Marvel's ROM Space Knight yesterday, as well as the G.I. Joe Silent issue with Jinx. Very cool. Let's see. Thomas N. Perkins in the chat. You're a professional kaiju maker. Oh, what did I miss? What did I miss? Hold on. I missed something. Oh, here we go. I think he means as a pro, not AI pro. As a pro artist in the chat, and a piece of trivia. I was a character designer on Godzilla, the animated series back in the 90s. I'm really digging your drawing. Oh, man. Thank you so much. You made my day. That's very kind of you. That's very kind. I'm sorry that I missed it. Like I'm not always good at catching every chat, folks. That's an example of missing a good one. So what was I going to say? I have been curious about the Minecraft movie for it's been out for a couple weeks, right? Is it just 1 week, or it's been out for a couple weeks? I forget. But I've been curious about it because I like Minecraft, and I like going to the movies when I can find the time. I haven't had the time, but I finally, last night after work, I was like, you know what? The hell with it. I'm going to go to it's late, but I'm going to go see it. And I'd say it was okay, which honestly isn't bad. Just that's better than me saying, oh, what a disappointment. It wasn't a disappointment. It wasn't quite as funny as I guess I was starting to think that it would be, but it did make me chuckle a few times. And I was impressed with how many Minecraft elements they included without it feeling sort of like too stuffed or something. That could have been very annoying. Yeah, it was pretty good. Anybody else see it? I mean, it's a lot of people are seeing it. A lot of people saying that they loved Perkins' work on Godzilla. Let's see. Oh, man. Yes. Sinners, I'm pretty excited for. At first, I was only like, when I saw the first trailer, I was like, well, I'll see it. Because I've never been let down by a movie by Ryan Coogler. I'll see it. But as we get closer, I'm starting to get excited. You hate that the Minecraft movie exists? The previs leaked version is a better experience. I can only imagine, because it is a little weird, folks. Like, once they go to the Minecraft world, I mean, it does often sort of... There are little moments that would just take me out of the experience, because instead of it feeling like they were in that world, it felt a little like 4 or 5 actors on a green screen with an interesting world. But yeah. Avengers Twilight's very impressive. I might have to make an episode about that at some point. That's funny that there's an unfinished CGI version out there. That's funny. Detail on this Godzilla is giving Jeff Darrow? No. I could never hope to compete with the master that is Darrow. God, he's the best. You know what's cool about Jeff Darrow is that he's cool. It's just awesome to be able to know him, and he's so humble, and for somebody that talented, he's so humble. I'm so humble. Bar none, I am the most humblest. My apple pie is by far the most crumblest. You guys know that one? It's a Lonely Island song. But I beg to differ. I'd be more humble than Dikembe Mutombo. Anyway. Jeff Darrow was at C2E2 and never seemed to have a line. It was nuts. That doesn't make any sense to me. He's so incredible. He's so incredible. More humble than Dikembe Mutombo. After a stumble left him covered in a big pot of gumbo. Do an episode about Avengers Twilight. It's quite good. No, what's the Jorge Jimenez Kickstarter? I didn't see that one. I didn't. What is the name of the movie with Jack Black and Peter Dinklage where they fought video game characters come to life? I think you're thinking of the Adam Sandler Peter Dinklage movie, Pixels. I think. I haven't seen Ianusha or whatever it is. No, I haven't seen that. I'm going to jump all over the place on this Godzilla because this is honestly just mostly fun rendering at this point. The thing about Godzilla is you just get like a basic structure for the guy, and the fun of it, you have to make it fun for yourself, is rendering all the texture and details. But the cool thing about any version of Godzilla is that they can all kind of be simplified to, and I'm not saying that is a bad thing, like to like a pretty interesting structure, and it's not that different from a human being, since the first Godzilla stuff was all like a guy in a suit. Well, I guess now that I think of that, let me pause. With the exception of the American Godzilla, which was a little bit more based on like an iguana or something like that. I've never looked up if they based it on something specific now that I think of it, but having our guest here in the chat like made me think about that a little. Because that is a lot less man-based and a lot more iguana-based. Just my take. Is there a specific era of Godzilla you go to most to draw? Probably, yes. I would say probably the Showa era most. But this one is definitely the -0. You know? I mean, God, that was good. If they make a sequel and it's like a completely original idea, awesome, totally on board. But if they wanted to bring back ideas from previous movies to set it in, that specific world, I could see two characters like really fitting the -1 aesthetic in an interesting way. I think that there could be an interesting take on Hedera, the smog monster. I think that there's a way to re-envision that as a really relevant character, or Biolante, another character that basically has to do with genetic engineering and stuff. And there could be something very interesting there. They are all fun eras, but the Showa was great, silly fun. It was. Every era has some great things and a few that are a little bit clunkers, but somehow I kind of love it all. I also kind of love all of James Bond. And I'll say that, there's one or two James Bond movies that are legit not that great, like Die Another Day or View to a Kill. They're not great, but I still kind of love them anyway. They're not top on my list, but I still kind of love them. Anyway. What is there anything like that for you guys? Either a series of a book, a band, a movie series, a comic, where you're just like, yeah, I can admit that not all of it is great, but I love it anyway. Like I'd have my rankings of what's the best, what's the towards the bottom, but I still there's certain things like that. Like for me, Godzilla and James Bond are two where I kind of just let myself love all of it. Yeah, I can always enjoy it. I hope we see more of the -1 universe and its take on classic Godzilla foes. I would love that. I would love that. Thank you for participating tonight. Yeah, you know what? There's a lot of I'm a sucker for horror movies, so yeah, I'll watch Saw, I'll watch Friday the 13th, and yeah. Ninja Turtles, that's fair. I believe that they did say that the director of Godzilla -1 is going to make a sequel, but I think he's doing something else before that, so it might be a while until we get it. I can't quite remember. Really? Michael Bay's Transformers movies. Interesting. The third one is your favorite. I saw them all. I can't quite say that I love them, but I definitely understand since I'm like saying some of the stuff like Saw and Godzilla that I absolutely love. The MCU. I feel like the only thing in the MCU that I outright disliked was probably Secret Invasion. I didn't like what Secret Invasion did. But I generally enjoy all the movies and specials. West Wing. I never saw that. I should. Daniel Warren Johnson did a recent Justice League versus Godzilla cover, and I swear it was the 98 American Godzilla. I didn't see that one somehow. Oh, you know what? I'm going to show you guys something real quick. So you just made me think of something, and I just happen to have it here, and I keep sort of forgetting. So it's just that I've got it placed with a piece of Daniel Warren Johnson art that he did for me. That was a lovely surprise, but that's not the point. So you may remember on my other channel, Comic Tropes, I did an interview with Brian Hitch and Jeff Johns. They were promoting Redcoat, and I think we had a really interesting discussion about the creative process and collaboration. And one thing I mentioned was how cool I thought it was that their imprint, Ghost Machine, had all these amazing artists lined up at New York Comic Con, and they were just drawing on the tablecloth, the plastic table throw. And it looked like everybody was having fun. They surprised me a couple weeks ago by sending me something. I don't know how well it shows up on camera, and it's been a little beat because it was a tablecloth, but Ghost Machine surprised me by sending me Brian Hitch's sketch of Simon Pure from Redcoat, and I love it. I absolutely love it. It's a very special, unique piece that nobody else has. I don't know yet exactly how I'm going to sort of like frame this because it's sort of an odd shape, but I'll figure it out. And it'll get done. I thought I'd just share that real quick. Pretty cool, right? Pretty cool. All right. Nope, that's not what I was going to do. Maybe I'll even do that just so that you guys can see this in a little more detail. It is awesome. Yeah. Nice. So cool. Yeah. Need to get that behind some UV glass. Yeah. I want to protect it. I do. But something like that needs to be shared. So I kept trying to remember to share it with everybody, and I kept forgetting because I've got so many sort of subjects to talk about every week. But I'm glad that I got to share that with you guys right now. That is very cool. Feels very one of a kind. I'm alternating between two pretty simple tools here. I'm sure your average professional comic artist would have a lot more tools handy at their disposal and maybe that's a failing for me. I simply have one technical pen and one brush pen, and yeah, so that's all I'm messing around with, depending on whether I need to do some sort of fine detail or if I can get away with something a little bit more flowing. And at some point, if I actually finish drawing this, I'm gonna have to erase an awful lot. That'd be a fun episode to watch, right? Chris erases. Oh, and that was a fun shot too. Just my hunched back and my shoulder. What a great host I am. I know how to make a good show. You know, I've never played with Clip Studio. It does look like a fun thing to mess with. You know, the biggest challenge for me is finding time to do stuff that I want to do creatively. You know, a little bit of sketching here is sometimes the most I can give myself. I never have time to do creative writing or anything because I feel like, well, I could, but that would push back making an episode of the show a week, you know? And that's ultimately how I'm paying my bills. So that gets very tricky to figure out, like, okay, you know, how much can I give myself for, you know, my mental health? Because I love drawing, I love writing. And how much should I go, no, you know, you need to pay the bills and not be lazy about the work that you've given yourself. So that's a big challenge for me, figuring out how to do that. So if I had the time, Chrissy did get me a lovely digital tablet, and there was a point in my life where I loved drawing digitally. This would this is somehow able to show you what you're drawing. I never have time to mess around with it. I never have time. There was an era for about like 10 years where I almost, well, I'd always sort of doodle, but like for doing any like drawing, I basically drew digitally. And I've just sort of come back to really enjoying the tactile experience of drawing with actual physical materials. And if I had the time, I'd be using even more physical materials. Like I love messing around with Zipatone, and you know, I would love to have a quill here and dip, you know, a quill in ink. I would love that. I would love it. But the trick is how much free time I can sort of allow myself. I know that might sound silly. You're like, well, just schedule it and just give yourself the time to do drawing, but it's very hard to justify because anytime I'm doing that, you know, like I am not a good enough artist that I can, like, you know, sell my art. So I do it for myself. And that means that anytime I want to draw or write, I'm taking away from time I could be making money to pay the bills. Does that make sense? I hope I'm not like, I hope I'm making sense. Digital for deadlines, traditional is for the love. I could understand that. If you could, if I was like a professional artist, EJ, I think I would have a digital workstation, and I get it because you can edit things faster. You know, I wouldn't have to bust out, you know, whiteout or something to fix it. Like it's faster to just hit Control Z or the erase tool or something. So that makes sense. No, I haven't seen Flow yet. I've heard about it. I'd like to see it, but I haven't seen it. How did you do with selling prints and comics at local comic store? I didn't have prints, first of all, actually. I had a little bit of original art. Nobody wanted any of that, and that's fine. I didn't expect that to sell, to be honest. I did sell some comics. So that was nice. I sold a good amount. Enough that I felt really happy about everything there. Yeah. Thanks for asking. Yeah, I was really worried that like when I did the second sort of signing within a 2-week period, I was like, oh my gosh, I've burned out my audience. One was I never do signings, and then I was like to do two within sort of the same Seattle area. But, it was because one was tied to having that backup in Radiant Black 32 came out. So I did a signing at my local store. And then the second one was because Comic Drake was visiting and he set up a cool meet and greet, because he'd never been here. And it also had Panda Red. So I was like, yeah, I mean, I'll go. I don't know if I'll bring too many people, but I was able to actually sell a few comics there. So that felt really good. There's so many good comics out right now that like the toughest thing for me is right now deciding what I'm going to keep reading and what I have to let go because I just cannot be buying it all. It's hard. What else is going on in the world, though? What else is up? I've been enjoying Daredevil. That's been pretty good. I get it, but you should try to make time if it makes you happy. It does make me happy to draw. I design animated shows by day and try to do my own stuff by night. Keeps me sane. I admire that. I really do. I did see Mickey 17. Yeah, it's not a perfect movie. It's good enough. I enjoyed it. Well, see, at that point, I'm like, it feels like I'm going. Oh, I got my degree in marketing. Like that was my major in college, and I got my bachelor's. So I'm like, I know what to do. I just don't have the time. I am looking forward to Thunderbolts. I'm starting to suspect that there could be more than a few twists to it, but I don't want to put them all out there because I feel like I might spoil things for people. But I'm putting a few things together, and I think that there's a few twists to things. I think that Marvel may have actually held back this time and not given us everything in the trailers, which would be nice. I wish that they had felt that way about previous movies like Thor Ragnarok and Captain America 4. Both of those have, sort of surprises that they gave away in the trailers that I think would have been very satisfying to come across organically. I won't say what they are just in case somebody hasn't seen those movies before. Yeah. I've changed up the order of episodes that I'm producing right now. I had told everybody that I was going to do an episode about Joe Kubert, and I will very soon. But I realized that realistically, I always end up taking more time than I expect to these days. So I'm going to switch it up, and I'm doing something about Sentry, Marvel's character Sentry, and about his creation as well as his first story. Just because that might get a little bit of clicks when people go see Thunderbolts. They may decide to look up some stuff about that character. And so I should get that out, I think. And I still will get out my episode about Joe Kubert because I've done a lot of work on it already. But I've just decided to slightly pivot and get the episode about Sentry done first. Yeah. One of the toughest things lately has been just how time consuming it is to get the images from the comics. That's where I could really use help. But then as soon as you pay someone to get the images, you have to tell them like literally like issue 43, pages 2, 7, 17, 18, and 42. Issue, but it like once you tell them to do all that, you haven't really saved yourself that much time, and now you're paying someone. So I've never found a good way to make that work. There probably are editors out there that know comics basically as good as myself or other comic book YouTubers, and they're like, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. I know where to find those, but those are probably also few and far between. Name all the Superman ripoffs. Gladiator, Hyperion, Omni-Man, Homelander. The list goes on and on. I don't think I bet you could come up. I bet you could sit down and realistically come out with at least 50 direct sort of riffs on Superman. I bet you could come up with at least 50. There are some buildings at the bottom just to give it like some scale. Yeah, just, whatever. Pro wrestler Samoa Joe used to use Godzilla opener horns for the beginning of his theme. I didn't know that. That sounds really cool. That's awesome. I know, you're right. So many of them are like, well, what if Superman was a bad guy? Remember there was like probably like at least 5 years or more now. There was that movie about like, what if a little kid had Superman powers and he was a sociopath? I want to say James Gunn produced it, but I could be wrong on that. It was an interesting enough idea, but it has been done a lot in comics. A lot. Who's a guy got to irradiate to get a variant cover at IDW on Godzilla? I mean, what's the deal? Kramer, you let the Rhino use my apartment. I was just on tour doing stand-up, and I came back, and there was a supervillain in there. Brightburn, right. Brightburn. Few people telling me that was one. Any artists you enjoy watching? I've recently been watching Peach Momoko a lot. I was mentioning earlier that I really like Tyler Crook's YouTube channel and Daniel Warren Johnson's. Those are two people that have. There's probably a lot of people that do YouTube videos or even like TikTok or Insta that I don't necessarily know about. But I love watching artists. Watching artists draw. I used to love Kim Jung-gi. Always admired watching Kim Jung-gi draw. Glad I got to meet him several times. Truly a masterful, interesting artist. I just don't understand logically like how he could lay things out and draw with such confidence and speed. The alacrity that he had to lay out, say, a motorcyclist on a busy street and have the technical details for the motorcycle, and then often put it in a fisheye perspective and just draw it without any sort of like, I've laid this out by like sketching in pencil and stuff so that I could ink. I don't understand how Kim Jung-gi could always do that just from his mind. He had a truly special mind. I loved watching him work. Loved it. Whoops. Oh yeah, that's right. There was. Have you ever considered doing a comic trope about the Cyber 6 Black Angel court case? I mean, I kind of talked about it in my episode about Cyber 6. I don't think I'd do more. I brought it up. Yeah, a wizard. That's an interest. Yeah, he kind of was in a lot of ways. It was magical. Irredeemable was a good take on Superman. Yep. We're not going to get another artist like Kim for a long time. Absolute master. Really, really special. I haven't read that, although I did hear some good reviews. Yeah. Oh man, I watched the first episode of the new season of Black Mirror, and I really like that show. But boy, was that one tough emotionally. Oh, has anybody else watched it? I won't give any of it away just because Black Mirror is, a show like Twilight Zone that rises and falls on the premise. So the less you know, the more you'll be able to enjoy it. So I'll never really describe that, but oh, it was good. It was. I liked it, as a story, but emotionally it wrecked me. It's really tough to take. He's still going. Beautiful Godzilla. Christopher. Are you implying I'm a furry or something? Loved Black Mirror and didn't realize a new season. Yes, season 7 just came out. Oh, I know. And Last of Us season 2 just started, didn't it? Oh, Chrissy and I will need to watch that tonight. That's what I'll make myself do, is like carve out some time to watch The Last of Us. That was, yeah, really good. There's some good stuff coming out these days. Can't see all of it, but make time for some of it. I love drawing the big G. Someday I'll have to go to that. Like, I think that there's an annual Godzilla convention in Chicago. I'd love to check that out someday. Oh, and apparently there's always been an official Godzilla store over in Shinjuku, but it is very small. There's not a lot to it, but it's nice. If you're in Tokyo, it's worth stopping by. And I guess that they have now opened a bigger Godzilla store in Shibuya. So the next time I go to Japan, I'll make a point of just stopping in there just to see what they got. That's fun. That's cool. I feel like Chrissy and I deserve a trip to Japan since the last one was cut so short and dramatically. But yeah, it'll be tricky to figure out the money part of it. What time is it? I might have to wrap this up because obviously I can't sort of ink all the cool details in here before I call it a night. But let's see, it's 7:30. Oh, Shin Godzilla is fantastic. I'd put it in my top 3 Godzilla movies. I would say realistically, Godzilla -1 is my personal favorite. And then I think the original still is my second favorite, but Shin Godzilla would be number 3. It's really cool. I also happen to really like a goofy one called Godzilla Final Wars, where he basically just fights all the enemies. G-Fest. Yeah, I would like to go to that someday. Yeah, no, the U.S. doesn't have King Kong stores. That's true. Not, yeah, that's interesting now that you say that. That's true. He didn't become as much of a cultural icon. He's definitely remembered and fondly. And I mean, I love the original King Kong. Those special effects are groundbreaking. Good. I'm glad another person likes it. Shin Godzilla, you'd need the right taste for it. I know what you mean. It's probably not for everybody because in a lot of ways, Shin Godzilla is more about cutting through the bureaucracy that governs Japan. It's about how Japan reacts to a disaster, about who needs to be involved and how things actually get done. But I found that interesting, and I found the characters likable and engaging. So I liked it. Oh, you're too kind, but thank you. Thank you. That is a fun one. Mothra in my top 3, Mecha Godzilla also. I love them. You know, I love the Godzilla movies. Just saying that, like, for me, Shin Godzilla is a top 3. Top 3. It's really, really cool. I need to finish the tail. Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. I don't know if I have enough time to really throw in all the ink I need to throw down here to make this look right, but I know what you mean that yeah, it does look a little phallic, like he's just dropping a big dong. Reminds me of the original Ninja Turtles art. They always had tails when Eastman and Laird originally drew them, and but they didn't always really look exactly like tails functionally. I'll just throw in at least a little bit of the shadow underneath to sort of indicate where the drawing's going, where it's going. There's a lot to do on this to make it complete, but it's the fun stuff at this point. Like it would be like busting out my little technical pen and just rendering a bunch of the detail there. And that's the fun stuff. I'm going to call it a night, but is it overly hated? Probably. It's a very different take on the material. And I'm not saying this just because one of the people that worked on the show is here, but the cartoon, I would argue, made the most of the idea and actually took it in some interesting directions. The live action movie itself would probably be towards the bottom of my Godzilla list. I mean, I think it's fun, but it's not quite it's not quite what I want out of a Godzilla movie. But the show was good. Thank you, Tyler. Aw, that's so nice of you. By the way, I've mentioned a couple times tonight, Tyler, that you have a channel that I really like watching. And on last Friday's show, Tyler drew, like from scratch, drew. I mean, he painted a triceratops in the jungle with all these great lighting effects of like the sunlight coming through, like, you know, tree leaves and stuff. Oh, it was gorgeous. The colors, the roundness, the depth. I mean, when I do my show, if I'm going to sort of draw, I'm really just inking, because I can't. I've tried it here before. When I'm penciling and talking and hosting and stuff, I just can't do it all at once very well. Like some things, I'm either going to ignore people a little too much, or the conversation's going to be bad, or the art is going to suffer. It's like I can't do all three, but I can sort of ink and talk to people, you know, because I can like sort of it. I don't have to think as much about it. But anyway, obviously a lot to do to like really give this guy the texture and depth and stuff that he needs. But hopefully you sort of see where I'm going with it, and that's going to have to be good enough. Multitasking is hard. It's a big part of what I need to do in my new day job. Let's see. That's why I have Mod helping with the live streams. I know, and you guys do it so well together. Like, it's really fun. Hey, Todd Klein. Wow. Here's a fun channel to scratch that Superman analog itch if you got it. But, and I'm not doing this to you, Todd. Links get blocked. I'm sorry. Like, that's a YouTube thing. But I appreciate you. So I'm sorry. If you want to just say what it is, maybe I am able to post it. Todd is not just a great letterer, by the way, but also, like, honestly, a comic book historian. I'm a nerd for lettering, Todd. I don't know if you know, but I'm definitely a nerd for good lettering. So I've always admired your work, both as, like, you know, talking about comics as well as like your work lettering. Sorry that it blocked a link. Thank you for watching. I appreciate that. What's the channel, Todd? I can put the link here. Oh yeah, because you have admin powers, right? You could do that too. Sorry. Yeah, YouTube always just thinks certain things are spam, so it just automatically blocks links except for mods. And I think I've also, just to be clear, like, I don't know if YouTube does, but you're allowed to block certain words, and there's certain like bad words, like not swears, but like bad words that I have just said, like, nope, that's an instant block. Before we jet, who's getting the complete Otomos? 2 new books drop in Japan soon. I only got one of them. I'd love to get them all, but like, they're expensive big books. You know what I mean? They're expensive. But I do have one of them about Akira primarily. I would say that my prized piece of original art is it's a not a photocopy. What would I call it? But it's a reproduction of an Akira page, but one that Otomo did a color guide on. So he did touch it creatively. Like, it's his art. He reproduced it, and then he did like some of the color guide work on it. So I'm like, to me, that's the best I can afford for a Katsuhiro Otomo piece of art. The fact that he drew on it is good enough. Joe Rosen was a favorite letter of mine. Oh yeah, I mean, going back, like Artie Simek and Joe Rosen, and those guys set the tone. But you know, I was noticing, like, when I was reading comics, guys like Workman, and who else did I like? Who's the guy that did all the X-Men lettering? Tom Orzechowski, stuff like that. Yeah, it was cool. Well, anyway, POV Media. POV Media is what Todd says has something about Superman analogs. Let me just see if I can find it myself, because that does sound interesting and like something I'd want to share. Oh, I think I found it. Yeah, I did. Okay, hold on. I should be able to share this. Let me do that for everybody. Let me know if this comment comes through. Okay, and it looks like Dave was also able to beat me and share it. So yeah, certain POV media. Yep, and it has a whole list of Superman analogs. That's and like I said, I bet we could sit here and come up with 50. It looks like this person's done like 100. That's really fun comic book trivia. That's you did. Thank you for doing the mod thing. And thank you, Todd, for sharing that. Thank you, everybody, for being here. You guys all added to the conversation. Some really great discussion tonight. I think most importantly, you all got to see my new glasses. I think that's probably the big takeaway tonight. No, it was really fun. Let's see. Hold on. Toho just invested 120 billion yen. That translates to $65 US. I'm just kidding. To globalization of Godzilla. I don't blame them. I think that, Godzilla himself is some sort of elastic market, and we have not quite reached what that is. Like there is a big audience for Godzilla. But you know what also Toho does well is they take breaks with the characters. Like sometimes they'll just like for 10 years, no Godzilla, and then they come back strong. So anyway, thank you, everybody. I really, really loved tonight. Tonight was fun for chatting about the comics news, looking over the comics that came out, and just doodling and talking comics with a wide variety of people. Thank you all. We'll be back next week. I'll be back anyway. I assume you will. Tell you what, I know what would bring you back. What if I gave you a double salute? I think that will bring you back. Good night, everybody. I am hard at work on the next comic Tropes. I'm not 100% if I can get that out this weekend or if it'll be next weekend, just because I'll just share this one other little thing. I switched my day job. Like I'm still at the same company, but I switched from sales to the business office. All that means is that I'm in a training period. So I actually don't have the flexibility of my schedule yet. I'm working a lot of hours at my day job. Once I get past the training piece, I'll have more time to myself to work on the channel and spend with my wife and so on. So thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Matt. I appreciate it. Lovely talking to all of you. Keep reading comics. See you soon. Bye.